Fellas, today I am bringing you one of the most notorious decks in TCG's recent history, Prank Kids. This has been always a really weird deck and never really hit its stride until just 1 or 2 years ago, and ever since then it's been taking names, especially in the YCS scene as of late and in Master Duel. So I'm going to give you guys a brief history about what the deck does, a little bit of a card by card discussion and deck profile, and of course some of that sweet gameplay. So let's just dive straight into it.
Have you heard of a restaurant called Grabbin' D's? Grabbin' D's is right down the road. No. Grabbin' D's nuts. Oh, got him. You just got pranked.
Prank Kids was an archetype released in the deck build set Hidden Summoners in November of 2018, which is actually just a couple of months after I decided to learn Yu-Gi-Oh! And get into the game. The deck focuses around the kids, monsters who are able to apply an effect when they're used as fusion or link material, such as a Foolish Burial, dealing burn damage or healing, and then summoning a differently named kid from the deck. There was just one issue, however. The deck didn't have a 1-card combo. You needed specifically to open a fusion spell, which either their archetypal quick play, pandemonium, or literal polymerization, alongside 2 kids in order to really accomplish anything. Now, if you manage to open those cards, you are off to the races and able to chain block to your heart's content, but unfortunately, the deck requiring you to open specific permutations of hands gave it a specific consistency problem that was no longer exclusive to Monarchs. Now, this isn't to say that the deck never saw any competitive success, most specifically with Dinka Bui, the People's Champion and the hero of the Farfacourt, for winning YCS Milan with this deck, surprisingly, but you could tell in the deck profile that it won less because of the deck's overall quality of cards and more because of the fact that nobody knew what the hell these cards did. And for years, that's where Prank Kids' notable success begun and ended. For 2 years, it languished at the bottom of Rogue until November of 2020. 2 whole years later, when Phantom Rage was released, one of the most impactful sets of all time in my personal opinion, and alongside introducing some of the most powerful archetypes, staple cards, and legacy support that we've ever seen, such as Virtual World, Zeus, and Torn Scale, a single piece of Prank Kids support was released as well alongside those haymakers, this card, Prank Kids Meow Meow Moo. Meow Meow Moo reads as follows. It is a Link 1 that requires 1 level 4 or lower Prank Kids monster. You can only Link summon Meow Meow Moo once per turn. If a Prank Kids monster you control would tribute itself to activate its effect during your opponent's turn, you can banish this card you control or from your graveyard instead, and you can only use this effect of Meow Meow Moo once per turn. This card was everything the archetype was missing. This card could have literally had no text and it still probably would have been just as good. It turned hands that consisted of a single kid and 4 hand traps into full combo. Being able to trigger your kids with a Link 1 was amazing. Not to mention trigger your Battle Butler, a quick play Raigeki on legs, twice. And this deck, as soon as it got Meow, it started to take names in regionals and YCS top cuts, ultimately culminating into my Slave Driver pack winning the August 2021 Remote Duel YCS with this deck. And now we can all blame him for the reason that on the very next ban list after that event, Meow was put from 3 to 1 in the TCG. However, we live in the fantasy land of Master Duel, a land full of opportunity and dumb bullshit, where Prank Kids remains at nearly full power with Meow at 3. Using this concise and powerful Link Climb and Fusion engine, we're now able to spam hand traps, quick play Raigekis, and feather dusters to our heart's content. And with that, let's get into the card by card. We are playing 3 Fansies, our Foolish Burial, Dropsies, who heals us for 1,000, Lampsies, who burns our opponent for 500. This deck loves winning in time, by the way. It happens way too much. And 2 Roxies. Roxies is sort of the worst one in the sense where it's not a 1-card combo because you need to banish a card in order to draw a card and then get the summon. But you kind of just have to play Roxies because it's a name that you can link ladder into. And sometimes you'll just need the summon off of Roxies after a long link climbing chain in order to go into your fusions. Speaking of, we are playing 3 Prank Kids Place, who is our field spell searcher for any single Prank Kids monster and helps us chain block whenever we summon a fusion or link monster. Unfortunately, the link monster chain blocking doesn't work if we're going first and our opponent doesn't control any monsters, because its effect is to have our opponent lose 500 attack for all their monsters, but you sort of get the idea. Prank Kids Pranks is basically Gusto Emerald. The continuous spell is absolutely crazy. You can discard a Prank Kids card, special summon a Prank Kids token. This is sort of important if you want to go to Bow Wow lines after, you know, sort of committing a ton of cards and just going for that early turn 1 play. And during your end phase, you can target 3 Prank Kids cards in your graveyard, except itself, shuffle all 3 into the deck, and then draw 1 card. This is very important for recycling cards we may have spent. Stuff like Rocket Ride, stuff like Bow Wow Bark, stuff like Doodle Doos that we may have excessively climbed into. These cards are playable at 1 because we're always able to recycle them thanks to this card. And of course, 3 Prank Kids Pandemonium, who is basically just L shit all fusion during the main phase. This shit isn't even once per turn. Crazy. 4 hand traps, we were playing 3 Effect Veiler because it's broken, 3 Maxi because it's broken, 2 Ash Blossom, it's a hard once per turn, so it's not as great, but you still play it because it's broken, and 1 Nibiru, you only play 1 because this card kind of sucks, but if we sack into it with Maxi, it's really funny. Next, we are playing 3 Polymerization and 1 Instant Fusion for additional fusion spells. Polymerization plus 2 kids is basically an FTK, being that you're able to do your entire Prank Kids line without having to even commit your normal summon, and then you still have a normal summon if you want to use that, as well as the Rocket Ride being basically Soul Charge. It's absolutely incredible. And Instant Fusion is just a way to get to Rocket Ride without needing Polymerization. Very, very nice. Next, we are playing for consistency 3 Pot of Desires. Every single card in this main deck that is engine based is a 3 of. The only thing we're really worried about is banishing 3 of, say, like Fansies, Dropsies, or Lampsies, but the odds of that are happening are so tiny that it will basically never come up. Next, we're playing 3 Twin Twister just because we hate back row, 2 Called by the Grave because we hate hand traps, and that's about it for the main deck. Onto the extra deck, we're playing 1 Prank Kids Rocket Ride. This card's got an amazing effect. You contribute this card, then target 2 Prank Kids non-fusion monsters in your graveyard with different names and special summon them. They can't attack this turn, but who cares? Link climbing. Weather Washer is a bad Pandemonium target. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you contribute this card and target 2 Prank Kids non-fusion monsters with different names in your graveyard, special summon them, and they cannot be destroyed by battle this turn. This is great for walling up against stuff like Numeron, or in a game state where we're just like, please don't kill us, opponent. Battle Butler is our good Pandemonium target and the only good one. It requires Lampsies, Dropsies, and Fansies specifically, and it must be fusion summoned. Quick effect, you contribute this card, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. And this is not a once per turn, and this is where the effect of Meow Meow Moo's Engrave really does come up. You are going to be able to basically always have a double quick effect Raigeki. 1 Raigeki is already pretty good, 2 is pretty nuts. Anyways, we're playing 1 Totally Awesome. You can make it using 2 Dropsies, but this is only for very high ceiling hands, where you're opening like Polymerization 2 kids, and you still have access to like a Dropsies normal summon or something. Anyways, we're playing 3 Prank Kids Meow Meow Moo. Absolutely incredible. We're going to use its graveyard effect specifically to enable multiple Battle Butler activations. We're playing 3 Prank Kids Doodle Doodle Doo. You're going to be using this a lot. Sometimes you'll even just go Doodle Doodle Doo into itself just because you need to trigger names. And this card is also very, very powerful. It just requires 2 Prank Kids monsters. It adds a Prank Kids spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And you contribute itself and target 2 Prank Kids cards with different names in your graveyard except Link monsters and add them to your hand. Usually one of the cards you're going to be targeting is the card that Fansies sends. Fansies is usually going to be sending pranks, or if you've already got access to a pranks, you might send a Pandemonium, so you could go into Weather Washer as well as Battle Butler if all else fails. And if you really want to, you could send like Place, I guess, if you really want to. Anyways, we're playing 1 Bow Wow Bark. This is basically Doodle Doodle Doo's second effect, except on our opponent's turn. You contribute this card and target 2 Prank Kids cards with different names in your graveyard except Link monsters and add them to your hand. And also, Prank Kids monsters you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects this turn. This is really good for adding back 1 or usually 2 of the pieces needed to go into Battle Butler that we basically sent to the graveyard just through the process of Link climbing. For generic Link climb tools, you're playing 1 Nightmare Phoenix and 1 Nightmare Unicorn because generic removal option is crazy, and of course the 1 Axis Code Talker just there for super duper easy Link climb OTKs because this deck can Link climb like it's nobody's business. And 1 cute card, 1 Prank Kids Rip Roarin' Roaster. It is the Link 4 Prank Kid, and it must be Link Summon. Quick effect, you contribute this card, destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. This card is amazing, specifically in Master Duel, because the amount of back row decks that sort of exist. Stuff like Stun and specifically Eldritch. This card is amazing against them. Doesn't see a ton of play in the TCG just because back row decks are pretty few and far in between because Brave Engine and a bunch of other external factors. But in Master Duel, this card is great. If this card in your possession is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card, you can target one card in your graveyard, except a link monster added to your hand. So that's kind of funny, I guess. And of course, the second effect is a once per turn. So that's going to be it for the main and extra. Let's get into the gameplay. So our game is going to be against Numeron OTK, and our hand is looking pretty good. We opened Ash Blossom, we opened a Kid, and most importantly, we opened a way to stop an Ash Blossom in the form of Call by the Grave. We're going to place for Fancies, and Fancies, upon its send for the summon of Meow Meow Moo, is going to be sending Prankid's Pranks. That's going to be very important in order to add back with Cock-a-doodle-doo. We're going to summon out Dropsies from the deck. We are going to use Dropsies and Meow in order to go into our Prankid's Doodle Doodle Doo, and Doodle is going to be Chainlink 2, while Dropsies is Chainlink 1. They're going to Chainlink 3 Veiler target our Doodle Doodle Doo, but out of just some instinct, I keep myself from Called by the Graving it, and definitely not because I forgot. Anyways, Doodle 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 Doo is not going to be able to resolve its search effect, but it doesn't matter because we open the Pandemonium. We're going to summon Lampsies, and we're going to go into a second Doodle in order to resolve its Graveyard Recursion effect to get that Pranks into our hand. We're going to Lampsies, burn our opponent for 500, and summon Roxy. This is what I was talking about, where we need specifically a fourth card in order to get that last Link Climb into play. We're going to add back Fancies and Pranks. Fancies is just going to be discard fodder in order to summon the token. We're going to link away the token and Roxy's in order to go into Bow Wow Bark. That's going to be able to add back the last pieces to hand for the fusion summon. Roxy's is going to banish our second Pandemonium. We're going to draw one. It's a second Call by the Grave, making our initial thoughts a bit, worse. We're going to shuffle back the extra Dropsies and two of our Cock-a-doodle-doos to draw into a Dropsies, which really wish we summon something else. Anyways, on our opponent's draw phase, we're going to use the effect of Bow Wow in order to add back Lampsies and Fancies, playing around the triple tack by not activating it in the main phase. They're going to go for the Numeron Network, and before things get a little too sussy upon the activation, we're going to chain the effect of Pandemonium upon the effect of the field spell. We're going to Pandemonium, use 3 monsters on board, 1 monster on board and 2 in hand. We want to keep the Dropsies for follow-up as a normal summon in case all goes wrong. And basically them using the Numeron Network right now sort of tells me that even if they Kaiju us right now, they're still kind of boned. We're going to use the effects of 1 Dropsies, 2 Fancies, 3 Lampsies, 4 Prankid's Place, and 5 Battle Butler just to nuke our opponent's board. We're going to banish the Meow Meow Moose just to keep our Battle Butler onto the board. They're going to go for the Ghost, Ogre, and Snow Rabbit, which would be really, really bad because, our board gets wiped. But we do have the Called by the Grave. Good thing we didn't use it on that Ash Blossom on Cock, huh? Or was it a Veiler? I don't know, I have short-term memory. Battle Butler is going to basically nuke their board, and basically we are in the driver's seat from now on. We're going to summon Fancies because it has the biggest booty. Fancies is going to send Place just because we don't really need it at this point in time. Dropsy is going to heal us for 1,000, and we're going to summon the Lampsies. They're going to normal summon Planet Pathfinder. They're going to smack it into our Lampsies, but unfortunately that's just not going to be enough, buddy. Turn change is going to come back to us, and this deck has trouble OTKing in specific instances. We're going to go Dropsies into a Meow Meow Moo. We could have gone into Totally Awesome, but I didn't want to because I'm bad, I guess. We're going to Chainlink 1 Dropsies and Chain Block with the Place with Chainlink 2 because we did summon a Link monster and our opponent has a monster on the board, allowing us to, do that. We're going to go Meow Meow Moo and Lampsies into our Cock-a-doodle-doo. We're going to try and resolve its search effect, again. We're going to Chainlink 2 Cock-a-doodle-doo because the float from Lampsies is what we're really worried about. They're going to Chainlink 3 Ash Blossom, and again, we basically have all the targets we need in hand already and the access to get to it, so we're not really too worried about it. They're going to Ash Blossom it, we're not going to get the search, and we're going to summon a Roxy's from our deck because we hate this card. We're going to go into a Link 3 Nightmare Unicorn. Unfortunately, no Prankid's Link 3 yet. Nightmare Unicorn is going to discard the Ash Blossom to shuffle back the Planet Pathfinder because this Ash Blossom basically doesn't really do much against Numeron anyways. And we're going to go into an Axis Code Talker to go for the OTK. Axis Code Talker is going to boost itself up to 5,300. and they are going to use the effect of Numeron Wall in order to end the battle phase as the world's worst battle fader. We're going to access code Talker banish the Unicorn to pop the Numeron Wall, and access code Talker in order to pop the Numeron Network. We're going to shuffle back the Bow Wow and some of our main deck kids back into the deck just so we have the recursion. And we draw Fancies, which is great for follow-up, except we already have the Dropsies. Anyways, they're going to go for the normal summon Planet Pathfinder. They're going to activate the effect. We could have technically let that go through, and it would not have mattered, but you got to hit him with the BM sometimes. We're going to go for the Called by the Grave, the second one. I guess if our Battle Butler got outed, we would be in a bit of trouble. Turn change, back to us. Our opponent literally has no effects. We're just going to go straight into the battle phase and put our opponent out of their misery with an attack directly for 5,300 thanks to our Axis Cock Talker. So let's get into the pros and cons. Number one, the pros. This deck is super duper consistent. I mean, you saw it. 1-card starters. They're absolutely insane. Basically, the fact that they're able to make Battle Butler with 2 Raigekis off of just 1 card, absolutely nutty. 2, this deck has a ton of space for tech slots. You're basically only playing maybe like 20 to 22 cards for your main Prank Kid engine. The rest could basically be whatever the hell you want. We didn't get into techs for Prank Kids just because there are way too many, but stuff like Thunder Dragon Fusion and Verte, Skill Drain, a ton of other cards can be played alongside Prank Kids in the form of hand traps, ward breakers, blind second cards, floodgates, that you are able to just get off to the races whenever you want. If you want a list of tech cards, you could basically search up any single Prank Kids deck profile and you're going to get a new possibility you could splash in based on basically everyone being like, I like this card because it's pretty good. And 3, this deck has amazing recursive gameplay. I mean, you saw the Pandemonium floats. That shit's broken. And the cons. 1, this deck has a weird weakness to hand traps. Basically, almost every single hand trap is applicable to you in some capacity. Effect Failure on Cock if you don't have Pandemonium access is really, really bad. Ash Blossom can basically ruin your entire combo if you get Ash Blossom not a kid in Grave and you don't have the extension alongside Skullmeister. Maxi really messes up your day because this deck special summons like no other. And the Nibiru at the perfect time will basically just ruin your entire day. 2, this deck is really, really hard. Obviously, we got a bit lucky in our Numeron video replay sort of deal where basically the basic 1-card combo was enough to get us there, but I can guarantee you that not every game is going to play out as simply as that. There are going to be a lot more nuanced games, a lot more interactive games, and it's basically up to you as a player to sort of find out what the most optimal combo path is, and that is really hard to do in Prank Kids, where every single card effect really does matter, and you really have to play out of your mind over the course of like a 9 to 10 round event. And 3, this deck's power ceiling isn't that high. Battle Butler is amazing, of course, but if that Battle Butler gets outed, you're basically a sitting duck. It could get Kaiju'd, it could get Forbidden Dropleted, it could get Dark Rulered. There are a lot of cards that out the Battle Butler, and if your Battle Butler gets outed, you are basically a sitting duck. Maybe you could go Weather Wash or Control maybe. But overall, this deck is absolutely amazing. It is consistent. It can go first and second. It can put in tech slots. It can put in floodgates. It can play around almost everything, and it is just a mother of a deck. Build this deck. It's cheap, it's powerful, and it's absolutely insane. I've been Stevie Blunder. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and see ya.